Okay, so I originally told you that this was going to be your quiz, a part of this worksheet, and we did some of it in class at the very bottom. But I am changing that to, this is basically your best review for what your quiz is actually going to be, which is on Wednesday, April 2nd. You're going to have a regular ellipsis quiz, and this is the perfect review. So you really need to make sure you know how to do all the questions on here, 1 through 10, every last one of them. The other day I told you what some of the centers were, just to help you get started on these, on 1, 2, and 3. But you really should be able to tell or figure it out yourself. So let's talk about how to do that. If I look at the ellipse in number 1, first thing is look for the point at the far left, the farthest to the left you can get. And notice that your grid is by 2's. So this point to the farthest left I can go is 2. It's not 4, it's between 2 and 4, so that'd be 3. So it's -3, and it's down halfway between 0 and -2, so that's -1. So this point right over here, the furthest left point on this ellipse, is -3, -1. The point that is the furthest right on this ellipse is at 7, -1. So the center of this ellipse has to be the midpoint between those 2 points, right in the middle between -3, -1 and 7, -1. To find a midpoint, you can use the midpoint formula, is the easiest way. You add the x's, divide by 2, add the y's, divide by 2. The y's are both the same here, so it's just going to be the same. -3 plus 7 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So my midpoint here is at 2, -1. That means the center of that ellipse is at 2, -1. So now I'm talking about, for number 1, an ellipse that has a center at 2, -1. Okay, so that tells me x minus 2 squared over something plus y plus 1 squared over something equals 1. I know that much just from knowing where the center is. So now I have to find my A and my B. Excuse me. A is the distance from the center to the vertices. Well, because I found the long way here, I just found the vertices. That's what these are. Okay, the vertices are on the major axis. So we're talking about the distance from 2 to 7, or 2 to -3, and that's 5. So A is 5, and then I have to find the distance from 2, -1 to the top, or to the bottom. That's the minor axis. So from 2, -1 up to the top here, which appears to be at 2, 2. From 2, -1 to 2, 2. That's a distance of 3. From -1 up to 2 is 3. So B is 3. Then I have to look and see which way it is. Is it longer from side to side or from top to bottom? This one is bigger from side to side, meaning it has a horizontal major axis. So side to side is x. That means you're going to find my bigger number, the a squared, under the x's. The a squared goes wherever you have the larger axis. If the larger axis goes from left to right, a squared goes under x. If the larger axis went from top to bottom, like it does in number 2, your a squared would go under the y. So here it goes from left to right, so it's going to go with the x. A squared is 5 squared. B squared is 3 squared. That's my answer. You were not asked to find the foci or anything like that on here, but you could be asked to find that, and you should be able to do it. Okay, remember that I would use b squared plus c squared equals a squared to find c. Notice that this is the same thing as saying c squared is a squared minus b squared. So 25, which is a squared, minus 9, which is b squared, that's 16, C squared is 16, so C is 4. So that means I go 4 to the right to get to one focus and 4 to the left to get to the other focus. I know I would go left and right to get to the foci because the major axis is left-right. And the foci, the two focuses, so to speak, are on the major axis with the vertices. But you weren't asked for that. You were just asked for the equation. So that's all you got to do on number 1. Number 2, again, we have to find the center. This time, let's go from top to bottom. Here's the top. Here's the bottom. The furthest point you go to the top, and the furthest point you go to the bottom. Those are my vertices because this is taller than it is wide. So the vertices are on the major axis. This one has a vertical major axis. Okay. One suggestion as you're going through these, after we do one problem, you might want to pause the video and try the next problem on your own, and then you can press play if you get stuck. But so I have my major axes, my major axis is vertical. This point appears to be, again, it's going by 2's. So 2, not 4, 3. It's halfway between the 2 mark and the 4 mark. So 3, 6 is one vertex. And the other vertex is at 3, -2. So we're really looking at the distance between 6 and -2. This is a distance of 8. Okay, meaning my major axis, which is 2A, equals 8. So A is 4. All right. Finding the center that means I would count down 4 from the top or up 4 from the bottom. This is basically just doing it without the midpoint formula. You could use the midpoint formula between these two. You'll get the same thing. If I count down 4 from 6, I get to +2. If I count up 4 from -2, I get to +2. If I use the midpoint formula, I get 3, 2. Either way, I'm going to get my center. I'm sorry, all these should be -3. It doesn't impact anything there. Okay? Either way, I'm going to get that my center is at -3, +2. Okay? So that means automatically I know, and I'm going to use the line here like it's the fraction bar, x plus 3 squared over something plus y minus 2 squared over something equals 1. Okay? Now a squared is going to go under which variable here? Since this has a major axis that's up and down, it's going to go under y. So a squared, we already said that a was 4, a squared is 16. Now I need to find b. It's the distance from the center to the co-vertices. So I've got, this is at -3, this is at 0. I'm talking on the x-axis. Okay, so from -3 back to 0 is 3. Or you could say this is this is 1. If it's one half of a box, that's 1. And then plus 2, that's 3. Okay, so my b is 3. B squared goes in the other place. So there's my equation. Again, if you want to try number 3 on your own, go ahead and pause the video. Try it on your own. Moving right along though, my vertices here are at -2, 2, and +10, 2. I call those the vertices because they're the farthest points away from the center. That means my major axis is horizontal, and the vertices are the endpoints of the major axis. Okay, so I could either find the distance from -2 to 10 and then take half of it and count over from each side, or I could do midpoint formula. The midpoint between these two, I really don't even have to worry about the y value because the y value is going to be the same. It's really the x values I'm looking at. So -2 plus 10 divided by 2. This is how we do midpoint formula, which basically we're doing the average. So the average x value is going to be one x value plus the other x value divided by 2. So that's 8 divided by 2, so that's 4. So this is at 4, 2 is my center. So I've got x minus 4 squared, y minus 2 squared equals 1. Now I need to figure out what my a and my b are. A is from the center to either one of these vertices, excuse me, the endpoints of the major axis. So if this is at 4 and this is at 10, that's 6. Or 4 to negative 2, that's 6. Or you could count 2, 4, 6. So A is 6. A squared is going to go with x because it's left to right. From the center to the co-vertices here is just 2. Up 2 or down 2. 2 squared is 4. So this is my answer. And look at the next video for problems 4 through 6.